Welcome everyone, and today's investment webinar. I'm thrilled to have Keith, the CEO, and Ryan, the COO of Rexis Biotech with us. Today we're going to delve into the exciting world of Rexis, exploring their cutting-edge technology, market potential, current traction, and their objectives for this fundraising campaign. So let's get started. Keith, can you kick us off by telling us about the technology behind Rexis?
Sure. So Rexis is many years in the making. We have spent the last several years really developing it for applications into the beverage space, hydrophobic molecules. So to dive into that, a hydrophobic molecule is a molecule that doesn't absorb in water or mix with water well. Think of your oil and water salad dressing. You can shake it up, kind of makes it look like it mixes together, but then it'll eventually fall apart. That's a problem with a hydrophobic molecule. Hydrophobic molecule doesn't absorb well in the human body, so the efficacy is not very good. So that applies to medications, that applies to caffeine, nicotine, and THC, CBD, many molecules that are hydrophobic. Our technology takes those hydrophobic molecules and turns them into a water soluble. There's lots of companies that will say they have a water-soluble molecule or water-soluble process, but I really call that a water-compatible. It's slightly compatible. It looks like it's assimilated with the water, but it doesn't last very long. Most of the companies that try to do something to assimilate, I'll use THC as an example, use THC or CBD into water. It's a temporary bond. So they'll use a surfactant, they'll use a very rudimentary sonication system or high shear mixing, basically just an artificial way with a chemical to attach the water to whatever that oil molecule is. It works temporarily, but it doesn't taste very good. Surfactants are terrible tasting, and they're not very efficient. So you're just adding more oil to the already oil that doesn't absorb in your body very well. The Rexis technology is completely different. We take a molecule, such as a THC molecule, and we take a lot of its components apart, put them back together, and fuse them to our carrier particle, which is our proprietary magic piece, along with our 7-step proprietary process that we do. So we start with a hydrophobic molecule, and by the time we're done, we have a powder that is fully soluble in water. You just sprinkle it in the water, it disappears, dissipates, and then becomes fused to that water. So this is the very simple terms of what we're doing, but it's basically just a way to get that hydrophobic molecule into a hydrolyphic molecule, absorbs in water, and stays solid.
Perfect.
Very easy.
So is your solution unique, and how does it set you apart in the cannabis beverage industry?
Sure, it's very unique. Nobody uses our technology. We have a patent in the front, 7 trade secrets in the middle, plus 2 different ingredients that we invented that allow us to do this. Completely on an organic base. A lot of people ask us, is it safe? The label claims on these are amazing. So you can have a beverage that we do, a club soda as an example that we launched recently with one of our in-house brands. It's water, carbonation, and our molecule. That's it. A little bit of sodium to make it club soda. But that's really that easy. You don't have a whole bunch of other surfactants, preservatives, all these other things you have to list. That is a big piece that makes us different. The standard way, like I said, of using sonification or high shear mixing and a surfactant is really a very rudimentary system. It's been around for decades and decades. Our system, we've been developing and building it for the past 10 years, and we've now recently just turned it commercial. We started the commercialization of this product back in September of this last year. We put it into a beverage format that we're doing, and we've done really strong 6-figure numbers in 8 months.
Brilliant. Ryan, could you discuss the scalability of your technology? So just hearing some insights into it on that side, and how can it evolve with the expanding needs of your market and industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everybody for attending. So the scalability is, as Keith mentioned, if we can do a club soda, and we can put our technology into a water that you can't see, you can't smell, and you can't taste, it allows us to do whatever we want and make any type of finished product. The majority of our focus is on the beverage side. We also can do things with consumables. And there's a lot of medicinal pharmaceutical applications that ultimately our technology can drive to, because we've created a completely different delivery vehicle that is reliable and predictable. What we are finding over the last couple of years is, as new consumer trends are growing, consumers are more conscious about what they're putting in their body. They want cleaner labels. They want better plant-based medicine. Our technology has the ability to work with almost anything out there. If it is a hydrophobic, foul-tasting molecule, it's more likely that our technology is going to want to work with it. You're hearing a lot of words about functional mushrooms, so lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, and other ones like that. You're hearing adaptogens, people wanting pre and post-workout products. Because of the way that we fuse co-crystals to make unique molecules or experiences for our customers, we're able to take these buzzword products and put them into a drink that actually tastes good. So there's a company out there called Mudwater. It is a mushroom-based coffee alternative. It's called Mudwater because it tastes like that. It's like you scoop up a piece of the forest floor, throw it into your water, and you drink it.
I was looking at getting some of that. So your advice is don't buy
it. I'm not going to say what you should or shouldn't buy, but personally, I don't drink it because I don't want to drink forest floor dirt. But the way that our tech works with other products like mushrooms, we can make that flavor almost completely inert, and you can drink it in water, or you can put it in your coffee or your tea.
So from an operational standpoint, it really does enhance, the technology does enhance product quality.
Oh, absolutely. It allows us, there's kind of several buzzwords or bullet points that we talk about internally when it comes to product quality. Flavor, because if the consumer doesn't like it, they're probably not going to buy it again. We also want them to have a reliable and a predictable experience, because if they like the taste, it worked well, and it works the same every time, they're going to be wanting to come back for more. Beyond that, when you look at testing and regulation, as Keith talked about THC, there's a lot of regulation on the marijuana side of the plant. The hemp side, there's not regulation that very much right now, but we're asking for it, we're advocating for it, we're working with regulators to get it in place. But what you need is stability, and you need that predictability. And so maybe you test your product after you make it today, and it's at a certain level of potency. But in 30 days or 90 days, if you're looking at a emulsion that's made with surfactants, you're going to lose about 30% of the potency, and you're not going to be giving your customer what they're expecting by the time the product gets to market. Our tech is very different. We're stable for multiple years, and so we can reliably and predictably give our customers what they're expecting. And the final piece about quality is how much of that medicine is actually getting into your bloodstream and providing what you're looking for. And the uniqueness of our technology has allowed the ability for the absorption through the glands and lining of your mouth and go straight to the blood-brain barrier. And therefore, we have a much higher amount of bioavailability, meaning the medicine getting into your blood.
Cool. So you mentioned, Keith, a bit about the traction. Do you want to share what the milestones that Rexis has achieved so far, and what has been the market's response to your product?
Yeah, much more than we ever anticipated. So we looked at several things. How do we bring this technology to market? The easiest way to bring it to market was prove that it worked, show that it worked, give it to people. So we developed the whole squared line of hemp beverages. We are now the largest brand, hands down, in the country, which I guess translates to the world. We are in 22 distributors, 18 states. We by far have the most robust distribution network. We looked at it and said, this engine that we've produced, so we produced this engine that we could put in any number of beverages, medicines, applications, CBG products, food, whatever it happens to be. So we chose this low-hanging fruit that we've been working on for 3 years. So it wasn't really low-hanging, but it was something that we worked hard to bring forward in a beverage. There are lots of companies out there that are jumping on the bandwagon in the last month or 2 months or 6 months saying we can do a beverage. Anybody knows me on LinkedIn, I'm that guy on LinkedIn that is screaming at everybody to tell them to stop doing that because I call their baby ugly. And, I would appreciate someone did the same for me. The products that they're putting on the market are so bad that they drive people away that have never had a product before. So we have had such success by producing the best that there is. And I know that's an arrogant statement, but it's absolutely true. We've entered half a dozen, whatever it is, contests, beverage contests, I guess. So you have the LA Spirit Awards, High Spirit Awards. You have all these different awards, just like in the alcohol space. They'll give a gold medal for best wine, best gin, best whatever it happens to be. They did last year, they started with the LA Spirit Awards, and they made it the LA High Spirit Awards. We entered 13 drinks, 8 different categories, won every single one. Then this year we did it again. So we didn't enter the old ones because there's no sense in doing that. We already won those. We entered our new product lines and won Best in Show again with our tonic water. So we put our money where our mouth is, which has allowed us to drive this. So now not only are we showcasing how the tech works, but we're generating really strong revenues from these cans that are going nationwide. They are expanding faster than we know what to do with. We have multiple plants. We have our own manufacturing plants in Florida and another one in Nevada. We just launched Total Wines yesterday in California. They are selling faster than we can ship to them. So it's a great problem to have, a great adoption rate for it. And we have another half a dozen product lines that are coming online in the next 4 to 5 weeks, 6 weeks. We're doing another massive launch of a brand new product line that we're doing at Bazinga Capital Conference in April in Miami. And that we think, again, will change the industry. Again, just adding more SKUs and more product lines. So we not only do our product lines, but we also do, I'm seeing if I had some on my desk, we do other product lines for companies that are our partners. Our revenue model is generated multiple ways. Sure, we could do our own engine, build this engine, and sell it to companies around the world, around the country, and give them the powder. But I looked at it differently when we built this model and said, there's a better way to do that. We could easily just give them their engine and they can go sit in the same race that we are, and then we have to compete against them. What we've done is we've said, okay, you want to work with us, we'll do that with you, but you have to basically play in our sandbox. We'll give you our engine, but you need to race on our racetrack. So we build them the product and we charge them money for that. We distribute the product. We charge them money for that. We sell the product for them, all within our distribution network, within our contracts with all of these distributors, which has made us the largest distributor in the country. So those are the pieces on how we put all those missing pieces together that no one was able to achieve before into one. So we're a one-stop shop for the people that we want to work with. And we only work now with the biggest brands, and that's been a successful point for us.
So Keith, what I'd like to add to that is because that we are building these brands for high quality companies that want to be in market, we're now going to our distribution partners. And it's not that we have, hey, this is one of our in-house brands like Squared, but now we have a whole book. We have a variety of products and different brands that appeal to different customer types, different flavor profiles. And so our distributors can go to the retailers and say, here's an entire shelf that gives your customers everything they need. And it's all powered by Rexis, and therefore what the quality and experience and the flavor is going to be like. And then it's a very easy sales process for our distribution partners, and it's a very easy process for our retailers to give their customers what they want.
Excellent. So you're seeing really strong demand for all your offerings.
Yeah, we are. We're 1,900% increase in revenue over last year. Just recently did those, so some massive increases in numbers. We're on target to do 2,000 to 3,000 increase over last year, over this 2023. We are seeing incredible numbers, and the other thing I think is important is our revenue sources are not driven from a single source. We have some very strong partners. 3Chi is one of our big partners. They're the largest hemp cannabis, the hemp side of the manufacturing distribution company in the world, hundreds of millions in sales. They are involved with us. It's no mystery they're a shareholder of us. and they're one of our biggest partners, and they're also the biggest player. So it's beautiful to have them involved with us. So we not only generate money from our retail shareholder partners like that, like 3Chi, we're also generating money from our regulated side. We have companies in the regulated space across the United States in the individual states that use our IP and license our technology. So we generate revenue from ingredient sales, license IP sales, private equity brands that we do. And then there's the one side we haven't talked about, and that is our, what I call our blue sky pieces. We have clinical trials that we've done in the nicotine space. We have several trials going on right now with very large tobacco companies. We have been in works with another CBD medication with a very prominent US university that is comparing ours to the only FDA approved product on the market today, which is Epidiolex, with massive success. Our first trial of that came out, we were 523% more effective than them, than Epidiolex. So those are our blue sky pieces where we'll go. But for us, a company that's relatively small and still growing, the low hanging fruit, the return on investment for shareholders is far more important at this time, so that we generate those numbers which allow us to do these big scale operations as we move forward.
So that ties in neatly, sort of, Keith, turn into the fundraising aspect. What are you raising capital for, and how will this funding propel Rexis forward?
You know, when we started this whole process, it was kind of, okay, well, we'll slowly start to grow, and it was an organic and we weren't really doing too much, but the growth has been astronomical, to say the least. So the big piece that we're doing is expansion. We're moving from 2 facilities of 12,000 square feet. We're moving into 26,000 square feet in another facility. We'll go from producing roughly just around 1 million cans per month to 4.5 million cans a month. And there's lots of talk of we're going to have to bring in an additional facility because the numbers are so massive. So we're starting to really see a demand. The marketplace is showing it. We have some of the biggest, one way to put this is the big players weren't getting into this space. They weren't getting into, when I say big players, the Budweisers of the world, the Coors of the world, the Molsons, those players weren't really getting in the space. Now, Constellation jumped on Canopy years ago in a much different investment stage. Now we're seeing Budweiser and Coors start to talk about distribution, especially with their AB houses, their Coors houses. And so we now have 2 contracts with them, from what we are the first contracts of its kind in the United States, where we are distributing to their houses, meaning they control the distribution in those states. So basically that money and what we're raising in these fundraisings are basically just to grow our expansion, grow our distribution footprint, our manufacturing footprint, and just allow us to keep growing at a rapid pace instead of the original pace what we thought would be organic. But now it's just got so big we can't just grow organically. We're absolutely having to feed the machine.
Ryan, can you shed some light on the expected outcomes of this fundraising, and what key milestones or expansions do you plan to achieve with this new capital?
So we have been modifying how much of the throttle we've been using the last few months in this industry, ensuring that we're able to deliver the quantity of product to each of our key distribution partners in the markets that they're in. Our head of sales has done an absolutely fantastic job building out our network. He has 15 years of experience in the craft brew world, building out distribution on the national basis. And so our real focus has been through the 3-tier alcohol distribution model. It allows us to age gate our hemp-derived Delta-9 THC products so that they're getting to the right customers. And it also sets a model for taxation for a long term. And in doing that, we have been able to get to thousands and thousands of stores, be it liquor stores, grocery stores, bars, restaurants, etc. We've had to be careful not to spread too wide too quickly so that we can ensure delivery to our partners. And we've got quite a few distribution partners that are waiting for us to say yes and start distributing to them. So for us, this raise allows us to go wider and deeper at the same time at a much faster rate.
Fantastic. And you mentioned your sales guy and their experience, but I'm going to ask both of you, why do you think you have the right team to make this happen? I mean, so often it's the team that counts. You can have a great idea, but a crap team and it's going to kill anything. So what is it about your team?
I had a mentor years ago, some of my other big ventures, and he told me this. He won Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year, not in a region, but the whole one. And he said to me, I only invest in companies that have a really good jockey and a really good story, because you can have a really good jockey and a crappy story, it doesn't work. You have a really good story and a bad jockey, they also don't work. So when I look at the different pieces that I bring to the table, I'm missing lots of things. And if anybody's out there and thinks, oh, they're the greatest manager and everything else, I think it's a excuse my French, load of crap. Everybody has things they're good at, and everybody has things that they need help with. So when I pick a team and I put a team around me, I try and find people that are another mentor, Guy Kawasaki, back in the day, he said to me, why would you ever bring someone on your team that is not better than you? So in certain areas, why would I hire a marketing person if I think I'm a 7 out of 10? Why would I possibly hire a 6.54? Nothing more than an ego boost. So you always look for someone that's better than what you do. And so when I built this team and I surrounded myself with the people that I thought were that, I always keep that in mind. Ryan comes to this from the Silicon Valley world, the structure of the operational world in that, and a long time sales division in that, and operational points. So I looked at that and went, I don't dot I's and cross T's. I am the 60,000 foot person. I put it all together. I put all the pieces together, and I make sure the pieces are working well together. And then I looked at sales. Let's not just hire a guy that, he sold cell phones, not to beat anybody up that sold cell phones. He sold cell phones one day and said, this is what I'm going to do now. That's great. I needed someone that was in this industry, and we brought forward. So Ted Whitney's his name. He was in the craft beer business. He brought very small craft brewers to national level exposure and sold them to Budweiser and like some of the biggest players in the business. Went from zero to that. And he was a big part of that. So great person to try and grab. And then our marketing people. We've got marketing people from Coors and Molson, and yes, you see a lot of beverage space here, but we've also got a lot of big time marketing. We have Red Bull involved, people from Red Bull. We have such a diverse group. I think that is why it works. We did not get egocentric and find somebody that we thought, looked good. Looked good on paper. We really went for people that had deep resumes, that had a vast experience in not only this space, but other spaces that we might move into. So hopefully that.
Yeah, that's great. Brilliant. Well, I think now is probably the time to open the floor for any other questions. So as I mentioned at the start, if you go to we're getting some. On the left-hand side is a chat, hop in there, and we have one from David. Can you comment on any recent negative concerning legislative developments that may impact this space?
Sure. Amazing question. Great question. So everybody always asks, what's the legalities here? Where's the space going, et cetera, et cetera. Ourselves, 3Chi, MC, a bunch of the groups that we work with, we sit on most of the boards of the Hemp Beverage Association, Hemp Beverage Alliance. Our sales director, he is the chairman of that corporation or of that association. We are also large players in terms of the lobby groups that help this industry and push it forward. Justin from 3Chi, he is probably the largest in that space in terms of how he does it and what he does. We believe of anybody out there, ourselves in these groups, have the pulse on exactly what's going on. You can never be sure about these things, but I will put it this way. We are seeing legislative changes that we've been screaming for. We're standing at the top of the box, waving our hand and saying, please sell it to 21. Stop selling it to kids. We don't want children's cartoons on there. We want all of that stuff gone, and we want it regulated like it should be regulated. So what has happened is you get bad actors in the space that will drive a wedge between the regulators and the industry because they feel like they are looking for safety. perfect examples lately are Florida. We have a facility in Florida. It was very much, keen for us to figure out what was going on in Florida, have to provide our input into Florida. And Florida has done something that has upset some people in the industry. But at the same time, for someone like us, it has been wanted. Stop putting 1,000 milligrams of something in something, stop putting children on packaging. And so Florida has taken a step to say 50 milligrams is the most you can have. Don't put this, you can't have certain things, which we basically agree with. If we're going to sell an intoxicating substance, make it 21. And I know there's lots of people that don't agree with me that are also in the industry, but make it 21. Brian touched on it earlier. Every one of our distributors, we only sell to distributors that are liquor distributors. We've already age gated, as Ryan said. If you're not 21, you're not getting it from one of our suppliers. And our suppliers only sell to places that have liquor licenses. They're on a federal license for alcohol, and we move that into our space. We don't sell gummies. We don't sell all those other product lines. Those product lines are handled by somebody else. We sell our technology for some of those people. A lot of them in a regulated space, which is in dispensaries, and that's a whole different business. But we also supply product to them, but we don't directly sell to them. So in terms of the regulations, things are changing, and most of those changes we're welcoming. There's very few changes that have said no. New York, as an example, has said, no, we don't want high dose. And they still called 5 milligram high dose. They went to 1 milligram. So we developed a 1 milligram beverage for them and Colorado that is starting to really go. So we adopt, we add up, we make it changes, for what we think is the best, outcome for the product lines and the regulations. And I put it to you this way too. The horses left the station or barn and the trains left the station. It's not going back in. It's going to go back in, or it's going to modify with changes. But the business we see now, Florida is a perfect example. Billions of dollars in tax revenue. And that's what talks. And we're seeing other states start to adopt it. But again, we want regulations too. And regulations are coming and welcomed.
Right.
I'd like to add one more piece there. From a compliance perspective, not only are we seeing and asking for change, but we're very proactive. So we are working with regulators at both the state and a federal level. It's health departments, alcohol boards. We're talking to them and helping them understand what they're actually trying to regulate. The reality is most people, even in this industry, don't really understand the nuances of what's going on. And so our team is working with these legislatures to help them understand what are they asking for when they put this into law, what is the actual implication of that, and how's that going to play out on the market. And it's so far been working really well, because now large companies and regulators are coming to us and saying, hey, is this okay? Does this make sense? And that allows us to get the laws written the way that they should be, rather than people that don't understand what they're regulating making up suggestions.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll add to that. We were the first company and almost the only company. Well, we've added companies to it that are part of our program in California. First ones to get approved by them, first ones to bring out a license for them, all in that hemp regulated or unregulated hemp space, whatever you want to call it. So we get University or Massachusetts, Illinois, South Dakota, California, their regulations and their regulatory bodies call us to ask what they should do. So I think we are way ahead of everybody else and really helping to be, as Ryan says, proactive and drive this, because it's important for us in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Great. We're getting loads of really good questions coming in. I'm going to try and group them. I'm going to ask a few distribution questions, and then, so don't worry, I will get back to some of the other questions. So when do you anticipate the large national distros, i.e. Southern RMDC, etc., to begin participating in the hemp beverage space?
Sooner than you think. It's already in the works. Let's just put it that way. So okay. Sooner than you think. They're already playing. They're just playing secretly through other companies.
The other thing about that is they tend to not want to be brand builders. They want to go deliver when brands are already on shelves. And so they don't mind paying a premium to buy the contracts to get rights to doing that. And we have very thoughtfully built out our contracts and our relationships so that we can play in that game as well.
We have two of our Coors distribution house and the Budweiser distribution houses are the two big ones that have already entered the space. So we already are contracted with them. Individual states, not on a national level, but those guys are the biggest national players. And so they've already started. And the two other companies mentioned in the questions are, they're beginning to, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Can you describe the consumption experience with targeting multiple unit consumption over time that seem to sell the liquor distributors?
Perfect question. Whoever did that, that's a good question. So
Matthew, I should say.
I'm sorry?
Matthew asked that question.
Okay, Matthew, great question. So first prototypes I really did were for Heineken back in the years ago. And they said to me, we can't have a drink in the old fashioned, I'll pull one up here. We can't have a beverage that someone's going to take and be intoxicated and they're done. And I sold them one drink. It just doesn't work. So we've been very, very diligent about our tech. And that is one of the things we haven't really talked about, but it's one of the most important pieces of our tech. I need it to work like alcohol and I need it to go away like alcohol. We've made it work like alcohol. So you're going to feel the effects. And people ask me, what's it like drinking one of these? It's like having a cocktail. I used to say it's like having a beer, but everybody's different. So between having a beer and a cocktail is one of these. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to wipe you on the floor. So it works in 15 minutes, 12, 20 minutes is kind of the max, shortest and max, like alcohol. The difference with alcohol, it will linger and it will compound. So if I have one alcoholic drink, as we all know that I've had it, and I have another alcoholic drink 45 minutes later, the first one has definitely not gone anywhere. And the way alcohol works in the bloodstream is you have a lingering effect. So it will compound and compound and compound. And as we all know, an hour or 2 hours later, you are full on at that 3.0 level in your bloodstream and you're trying to drive and it's a mess and we have problems. The difference with this, it works in 15. Within 45 minutes, you'll start to get a decrease. In 1 hour, you'll notice a decrease. Hour and 15 minutes for most people, it's gone. This works much more like a light switch. So when it's over, the switch turns off and you're back to normal. It's not lingering effect. In traditional THC or cannabis effects, you will have a lingering effect. So it will last longer. I've heard of people waking up the next day.
4+ hours.
Yeah. I've heard of people waking up and they're still feeling that. Ours does not do that. And that is one of the biggest reasons we've had the biggest success. Because I can't give you one and go into a restaurant, because these are sold in bars across the United States, which people don't realize yet, but they're in restaurants and bars, depending on which states you're in. This will dissipate. You can have one, 45 minutes later, you get a little bit of crossover between the two, and then the other one dissipates. So you can continue to be social. The idea behind these, social, because coming from an investment point, I need to sell a lot of these. I need to sell not one. I need to sell 3 in a night or 4 in a night or whatever you're going to have to do, or just one. But your question is very important. That was one of the biggest pieces that we worked on so very hard with this tech.
Excellent. This question I think is probably for you, Ryan. What's the input ratio with your API to finished goods? 1 liter of input material plus API equals 3 liters? ?
I'm going to give that question to Keith.
Whoosh!
Kind of a proprietary question, but I'll try and address it. We are as good, I think, as we get with, we are probably about 5 to 1 now, 4 to 1. So if we wanted to produce 5 milligrams of material, we could do it with about 20 milligrams of our input. So our fusion material produces about a 5 to 1 ballpark.
And that ratio.
And we've got way better over the years. I can't get too much more detailed than that, but hopefully that answers that question. Meaning you use so little inside here, and it is not emulsion based. So again, this is not dispersing another liquid in water, which is what emulsion is. It's just you're taking a liquid and dispersing it. That's the true definition of an emulsion. This is not an emulsion base. We're completely different.
And the person who asked that question said it does address it, so thank you. Okay, let's get to the sort of the nitty gritty. As is from David, when do you expect to achieve profitability, and how do you think about margins versus growth?
Profitability happened in 2023. It's already gone. So we're already profitable. And part of that is because we had more success than we wanted. Now we I don't know if I'm allowed to say sales numbers yet, but we've had a really
about that.
we've had a really good, we're a very strong 6-figure sales, which we did not think we were going to have. We could have had a better profit margin, but we are growing so fast. We are just expanding. So we are, not as lean and not as efficient as we get. I've been doing this a long time. We will get way more efficient over the next 12 months. But this baby step here, we're getting there. But it's coming. But the hardest part, drive the revenues and then clean up the expenses, clean up the costs. So our revenues are there and they're growing faster than we ever imagined. So we'll clean the other side up. We expect to have a 30% EBITDA because we have a high profit margin for the stuff we do. We just are getting very efficient. So I'll put it that way.
What I'd also like to add, having spent 20 years in Silicon Valley, I am no stranger to the idea of build something and eventually you will become profitable, or eventually you'll just sell it off and somebody else will make it profitable. I fundamentally do not operate that way, nor does Keith. And in the CPG world, you can't build a business that way. It's not like you have software, you hit print and have 1 million copies and it didn't cost you anything. So we are keenly aware and hyper-focused on making sure that everything we are doing from a business decision is a profitable decision and allows us to get there. And that's why we got there so quickly.
Okay, great. I've got another question. I've got a response to your previous one, and then I'm going to ask a question which I think you've already said you can't answer, but I'll go there anyway. So just on the previous one, describing sort of how you want people to be able to drink the product all night. The comment was, this tech's going to be fantastic. The truck drivers are buying low volume, high THC shots in Illinois, regulated with Botanica. Is that something you're familiar with?
There's a lot of stuff out there where people are saying this is what it is. For me, it's a hard spot because we want to be I'll say where I'm coming from. A lot of people are going to argue with me. I think this stuff should only be sold in liquor stores. It should be controlled and it should be run that way. And we will find that's going to happen and we will see it. And we built the strongest network in the country to maintain that. We do not sell it directly to smoke shops. We don't sell it to grocery stores and all those things. There will be things that start to change. And alcohol is sold in grocery stores. Don't get me wrong, 100%. It will be there. We need to set that up and drive it right. These product lines where like a truck driver would drive or buy it and use, it scares me because I don't want some truck driver to buy it any different than I would want them to buy a beer and drive it down the road. But there are a lot of companies that are out there, a lot of companies that have come to us. Can you build a product for us? And a lot of companies that we've said, no, it just doesn't fit our model. It doesn't fit our social equity piece that we're trying to build. So to the direct question, there are a lot out there that are trying it. You will find one of the things we're doing right now is a taste test challenge across the country. Most people don't realize what it tastes like. Emulsions taste terrible. They taste bad. Most THC drinks are awful. So a lot of people will mix botanicals. They'll do all kinds of things with them to try and help that. So, I don't know if that really answered your question, but.
No, that's great. I'm going to ask a question that John asked that you may not be able to answer. Okay. So first off, really exciting, Keith and Ryan. So that's great to hear. You mentioned that 2024 revenue will be 2,000 times that of 2023. So what is the full year 2024 estimated revenue in US dollars?
Yeah, I mean, that 2,000 is it's going to be hard based on what we've already done. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that or not.
It's
I
good.
believe we are going to have a strong 7-figure income revenue stream from 2000. I'll put it that way. We'll have a strong did I do the numbers right? Yeah, we'll have a strong 7-figure revenue in 2024.
Okay.
And
Right.
the best part about why I know this, I'm sorry?
7 or 8 figures.
8 figures. I'm so sorry. I missed the number. Strong 8 figures number.
Last year, 8 figures this year.
Thank you. Yeah, last year. Strong
There were some figures.
strong 8-figure number this year. And the reason is we're not saying price this thing to perfection so we can get exactly every cent we need out of it. That's not what we're saying. All we are saying when we extrapolate these numbers is our current numbers just multiplied out by the rest of the year. Slow increase each month in terms of sales. It's not like we're saying we're going to hope every man, woman, and child is drinking what we sell or using. That's not it. Like all we did was add more states. We're about to add 2 more states to our already 17 states that we're in by the end of this month or the end of next month. So all of a sudden, we're just expanding exponentially as we move forward. All of those numbers too do not take into account any of our nicotine product. They do not take into account any of our
Caffeine.
I'm sorry, caffeine. Right?
Drinks.
There's no caffeine and not a lot for the line's main product too. So we produce a product for a company called First Person. You've probably seen them. They're growing massively and they're a great company and love the team there. And we built for them, which is basically the best groundbreaking functional mushroom beverage. And it's going to be in a retail store, grocery stores across this country very soon. That model there could eclipse what we're doing with this stuff very quickly. So we haven't really built that into the model either. We have a ton of upside that we haven't really seen yet. And the other thing too, the regulation issue, we have diversified ourselves into a bunch of different areas. So regulation in the hemp space changes, we still have 4 or 5 other revenue streams that we generate a fair amount of money from too. So it gives us some cushion.
So I'm mindful we have a minute left, and we have one last question. So from Stephen, what are Rexis's short, mid, and long-term goals, and what is the exit strategy?
Great question. So short-term goals, continue to build this to the largest hemp beverage company in the world. We are also very proud of being the best beverage of its kind out there. We are also going to foray into the RTD space, so the non-alcoholic space. Smells like a rum and coke, tastes like a rum and coke, has no rum in it. That is a big market that's growing. I believe we have, through our partners, we have some of the biggest corporations as partners in this deal, as well as shareholders for some of them. The original intent was I thought there would be some kind of public exit, but the way it's going, I'm not allowed to sit here and tell you exactly what I think. But if I was going to, look in the future, I would say that there will be a liquidity event of some kind in the next 18 months. And if I was going to bet on that, I would say it's probably more of a buyout than it is a public strategy. And I think that behooves everybody involved because it's, let me put it this way. Our engine that's inside these is being used in a whole bunch of big corporations, and they're not really that keen on renting their engine. They want to own it. So that is where I think things are going to go.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Keith and Ryan, and thank you everybody for attending today. We've had a great turnout, and thank you for sharing your insights with us. It's clear that Rexis is on a very promising path with innovative technology and a solid strategy for growth. And we look forward to seeing where this journey will go.
Thank you to everybody that showed up and the support. A lot of people say, why are you still doing stuff or doing these things? I love what I'm doing. I think I hope it portrays in how I come across today. I absolutely love what I do. I'm not ready to sit on the beach anytime soon. I absolutely love this program, and I've been part of some really big deals, and this is hands down the biggest thing I've ever been involved with. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
So I think we can clearly see the impact that Rexis will have on the industry, in fact, creating a new industry. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and we encourage any interested investors to head to WeFunder to learn more about their investment opportunities.
Thank you, Vicky.
We'll send
Victoria,
out an
so
email
much.
with the recording.
Thank you, everybody.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone. Have a great day.